Albert Einstein wasn't born under a bright star or in a family of scholars. He came into the world quietly on a cold December morning in 1879 in the German town of Ulm. Nothing about that day hinted at the fact that this child would one day reshape the way humanity sees the universe. As a boy, he was slow to speak. His parents worried. He was thoughtful, sometimes oddly so, staring for long stretches at seemingly simple things. One day his father gave him a compass. It was just a little object with a needle, but for Albert it opened up a world of mystery. Why did that needle always point in the same direction? Nothing was pushing it, nothing visible at least. Something unseen was guiding it. That question stayed with him. He didn't enjoy school, the rigid structure, the memorization, the silence when curiosity bubbled up. It didn't suit him. Teachers called him disrespectful. Some even said he'd never amount to much. But he wasn't difficult. He was just focused on something else. His mind wandered far beyond the classroom. It traveled with light. It danced with numbers. It bent around problems no one else was thinking about. At home he read, voraciously, anything about physics, philosophy, or math. He wasn't chasing grades, he was chasing ideas. And that hunger, that quiet obsession, would never leave him. After failing an entrance exam, he eventually made it into the Polytechnic Institute in Zurich. There too he often skipped class and ignored his professor's teachings. Not out of laziness. He preferred learning on his own terms, following threads of thought wherever they led. When he graduated, he couldn't get a job in academia, so he took a job at the Swiss Patent Office. Day after day, he reviewed technical designs. Not the kind of setting you'd expect for a revolution in science, but it turned out to be the perfect place. The work wasn't too demanding, which left his mind free. While others saw machines and mechanisms, Albert was thinking about time, space, and the speed of light. In 1905, while still working at that patent office, Einstein published 4 papers that would change everything. One paper explained a strange phenomenon observed in liquids, what we now call Brownian motion. It offered solid proof that atoms were real, which wasn't fully accepted at the time. Another explained the photoelectric effect, laying the foundation for quantum mechanics. A third introduced special relativity, a concept that even today feels more like science fiction than science. And then came the fourth paper, just a few lines long. But in those lines, he gave us perhaps the most famous equation in history, E equals mc squared. Energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. It's such a tiny formula, but what it means is enormous. It says that mass and energy are interchangeable, that the tiniest speck of matter holds a vast reservoir of energy. It's the principle behind nuclear power and, sadly, nuclear weapons. That year, 1905, is known as Einstein's Annus Mirabilis, his miracle year. But he didn't stop there. Years later, he presented something even more ambitious, the general theory of relativity. Unlike Newton, who imagined gravity as a force between two objects, Einstein saw it differently. He imagined space and time as a fabric, something that could bend and curve. According to him, objects like the sun bend this fabric, and planets move along those curves. Gravity wasn't pulling us. Space itself was guiding us. It was a bold idea. Too bold, some thought. But in 1919, during a total solar eclipse, scientists tested his theory. They measured the position of stars behind the sun and found that their light bent just as Einstein had predicted. Overnight, he became a global icon, not just a physicist, a symbol of genius. But fame didn't change him. He still played violin in the evenings, still walked slowly through the streets, lost in thought, still forgot things like his socks or his appointments. Friends would ask what he was working on. Sometimes he'd answer. Sometimes he'd just smile and say, "Oh, just trying to understand a little more." When Hitler rose to power in the 1930s, Einstein, who was Jewish, left Germany and settled in the United States. He took a position at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, New Jersey. It was there, far from the chaos of Europe, that he spent the rest of his life. Though he'd warned the U.S. government that Germany might be building an atomic bomb and urged them to begin research, he would later regret that letter. He wasn't involved in the Manhattan Project. In fact, he spent much of his later life advocating for peace, warning against the dangers of unchecked science. He believed deeply in human responsibility, that our discoveries should serve life, not destroy it. He also became a vocal supporter of civil rights. He spoke out against segregation in America and even invited black scholars to his home at a time when few others dared to do so. But through it all, he kept thinking. He was never content with what had already been solved. In his final years, he chased something elusive, a theory that would unify all the forces of nature: gravity, electromagnetism, quantum mechanics, one beautiful framework, one elegant truth. He never found it, and he knew he might not, but that never bothered him. For Einstein, the journey, the wonder, the questions, the exploration, that was the reward. When he died in 1955, he left behind no great wealth, no monument, just pages of ideas and a legacy of thinking boldly. Today, his theories power the GPS in your phone. They explain how stars are born and how black holes swallow light. They shape the way satellites orbit and how time slows near something massive. But beyond the science, Einstein left us something else, something quieter, a reminder that wonder matters, that curiosity can change the world, that it's okay to question what everyone else accepts, that imagination is just as important as knowledge. He once said, "The important thing is not to stop questioning," and he meant it. So if your mind ever drifts, if you find yourself staring at the sky or at the patterns in a puddle, or wondering how something really works, don't rush to an answer. Stay there for a moment. Let the question breathe. That's where the magic lives, in the not knowing. Albert Einstein's story isn't just about physics or fame. It's about the quiet power of a thoughtful life, a life spent chasing ideas, not for reward, but for the sheer joy of understanding something just a little better than you did the day before. And maybe that's all any of us can really hope for. So wherever you are, whether you're working late, winding down, or moving through your day, let that idea sit with you, that it's okay not to have all the answers, that asking beautiful questions is enough. And if tonight your thoughts drift toward the stars, know that somewhere in the silence, a gentle mind once drifted there too.